In a world of financial uncertainty, many are searching for not just security, but integrity. And for Muslims, that means aligning their financial planning with the ethical and spiritual principles of our Deen of Islam. From wealth management to medical aid, employee benefits to estate planning, how do these everyday services align with the Sharia? Tonight we sit down with Mohamed Jaffer from Mojaff Financial Services to unpack how each of these offerings can be tailored to meet both your financial goals and your Islamic values. This is more than just about halal and haram. It's about building barakah in every financial decision. Mohamed, assalamu alaikum and thank you for joining us.
Wa alaikum salam, Mikhail, to you and to the beloved listeners of Radio 786. It's been a while, so inshallah, let's see what we're going to do regarding the very topic that you spoke about. And
Yes.
my understanding is that we're going to do this over a couple of programs, which
Inshallah.
obviously this topic is so vast
Yes.
that we will have to start at a certain point.
Of course. Just a reminder to our listeners, you can get involved in the show. We are doing WhatsApp, so it's 0786 10 11 12. Send your messages in. If we have time, we'll definitely cover it, inshallah. So, how does Sharia compliant wealth management differ from conventional models, outside of the Sharia?
Okay, I think maybe if you don't mind, Mikhail, I would want to take one step back. When we talk of wealth management, financial planning, you need to start at a certain point. And the point that you need to start is that if you are not capable of managing and navigating through this yourself, because there are certain people that can do it on their own, but the vast majority of people can't do it on their own. So the first thing that you need to do is to try and source a properly qualified financial planner, a wealth manager that can take you through this.
Okay.
And preferably the first thing that you need to do is when you're in the hunt for this, try and get a properly qualified, somebody who's got a postgraduate diploma in financial planning, and they are normally called they've got a CFP, but make sure you've got firstly the person who's properly qualified, number one. Number two is that the person has got the necessary skills and experience. All right, because obviously experience, as you know, you can never buy experience. Experience comes with time.
Yes.
So once you've identified that, and maybe if I can just put a rider there.
Of course.
Please don't associate yourself or attach yourself to what I call broker, the salesman, who's going to try and sell you something and move on. Get yourself with somebody, associate and tie up with somebody that will take you on the journey, because financial planning and wealth management is not a event, it's a process.
Yes.
It takes many, many years of developing and building your portfolio and where you want to be at a certain stage of your life. So typically what would happen is that the advisor would do an analysis of where you are at this point in time and where you would want to be at a certain time. For argument's sake, most people say that I would want to retire at the age of 60 or 65. I know many of the youngsters today will tell you when I get to 50, I'm done working. But when you do the analysis and actually show them how many years it's going to take to get to a certain point, obviously it becomes clearer.
It's very important for us to know that in today's society, or in today's economy rather, we're not able to retire at 50. I was talking to a friend and I said, of course, everyone would love to retire earlier. When I was younger, I would say I want to retire at 30, and now I'm getting closer to that. I'm like, it's just unrealistic. So the most important part for Muslims is, like you said, we're taking a step back from the first initial question, is to have someone who's qualified, identify how we need to move forward. But obviously, the amount of people available from a Sharia compliant perspective to the non-Sharia compliant is so different. How do we know who we can trust? It's easy for us to walk into a bank and say, hey, give me a portfolio. But obviously, if we need to do that from a Sharia compliant perspective, where do we start with understanding what is Sharia compliance essentially?
Okay, so you just touched on something earlier on, Mikhail, that the important point of financial planning and also associating yourself with a properly qualified advisor.
Yes.
Yes, there are. I obviously know the advisors in the industry,
Yes.
but I think a good point to start is firstly search on certain websites, certain companies
Yes.
that have advisors on their panel.
Okay.
So maybe start there, and then also speak with people in your circle
Yeah.
and try and get them to refer you to somebody that they find reliable. Don't just go on the internet and eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and you
Okay.
go to that. Personally, the point that you've raised, many of these advisors is not schooled in in Sharia
Yes.
financial planning.
Yes.
It's it's the conventional funds and the
Yes.
conventional way. In fact, even if you talk of one of the aspects that inshallah we will cover down the line is Sharia compliant estate planning.
Yes.
That's a whole sphere on its own.
On its own, yes.
And that there are many, with due respect, many Sharia advisors that are not necessarily schooled in that.
Okay.
So make sure that you find the right
Okay.
person. And that also, as you said, Sharia compliance is the key.
Yes.
Because already the Sharia market is a fairly small market, and you highlighted it also.
Yes.
So when it comes to investments, you need to know somebody that can look further than the local market.
Okay.
Because the local market from a Sharia perspective is very limited.
Yes.
So the advisor needs to be able to take you beyond that.
I think you mentioned a lot. I mean, obviously the Islamic estate planning, the Sharia compliant estate planning, everybody knows how busy that can be. But what I want to know from you is, how do you ensure halal income sources when managing client portfolios?
Okay, so that is now you're now getting to the point of the construction of a portfolio. So we will, if you don't mind, Mikhail, I just wanted to slow it down a bit, if you don't mind. So firstly, when you meet up with the advisor and you found somebody, I think the first thing that the advisor needs to do is to do an analysis of your portfolio, where you are, and do a complete analysis from your age
Yes.
and what you've got. The reason why I say age is important, because the younger you are, you can go in more aggressive portfolios,
Okay.
which over the long term is going to give you a better return.
Okay.
Obviously, somebody who is I don't want to say older, but more mature, you will then limit the risk that you're going to take with the portfolios.
Okay.
And then people that are close to the retirement age, you need to look at the portfolio more from a conservative to a maintaining phase of the portfolio. And then you're talking of people that are now going to enter retirement.
Yeah.
And that is now a drawing phase, meaning they have built up this portfolio over so many years. They are now wanting to reap the benefits and pluck the fruits of the investments. So as you can see, each phase of your life, as an advisor, we approach your portfolio differently.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you find that there are young people who comes from a background where they had a tough background, and most of us come from that background. And then they have a very conservative outlook on their life and on finances.
Yeah.
Now, it is the advisor's responsibility to make sure that the client or that person understand that, listen, at your age, you are maybe in your 20s or 30s, that if you're going to have a conservative approach with your portfolio, it's actually going to count against you.
Okay.
And the advisor needs to then show the person that if you're going to invest in these funds, this is the type of return that you're going to get. If you're going to invest in moderate portfolios, these are the type of returns that you're going to. And if you're going to go in a conservative approach, a portfolio, these are the kind of returns that you could look at. So it's important that that is then spelled out. All right. So now, once that is done, the advisor then will develop a financial plan for the client, and the plan would entail short-term goals, medium-term goals, and long-term goals. Now, I just want to draw the distinction here. That there's a clear distinction between savings and investing. And unfortunately, a lot of people actually confuse these two as one. Now, savings is your investment, and you get many Sharia compliant alternatives today for savings. Savings is typically where you're going to put it either in a Sharia compliant account at a bank, or there are certain Sharia compliant investments that are for short term. But these are the type of the savings is your stuff that you're going to. Mikhail maybe needs a new phone, or your car needs tires, or it needs a service, or anything, or for instance your short-term traveling expenses. Those are the type of items that you would draw from your savings account. These would be the short-term stuff, the stuff that you need now. Medical expenses, for argument's sake, you need to go see a specialist, and this unforeseen medical expenses, that will come from your savings. So typically in your savings account, as an advisor, what we would do is that you should have, depending on your income, between 6 months and a year's income in a savings account. Why? Because in South Africa, 97% of South Africans, and I want to repeat this, 97% of South Africans is 3 months away from bankruptcy. Now that's a
very concerning and interesting fact, but very concerning at the same time.
Correct, yes, And how did the industry determine that? Because if you lose your job, and a lot of people experience this during COVID, and that is still very fresh in our memories. If you leave your job, if you lose your job, within 3 months, the creditors, the banks, the people, their car, where you bought your car through, the banks are going to be knocking on your door because you are in arrears with your repayments for 3 months. And they're going to start the process of repossessing. If you can't come up with a feasible plan of how you're going to pay it back. So based on that, the industry has come to the conclusion that 97% of South Africans is 3 months away from bankruptcy. So as an advisor, your first point of call is to make sure that your client is secured in that sense. And then we start with the actual portfolio, constructing of the portfolio.
So then my one of the listeners actually brought this up, so I want to actually ask this. So a scenario plays out. Someone says, look, I want to get away from riba. I want to become Sharia compliant. What's the first step and how do I get there?
Okay, brilliant. Very, very good question, Mikhail. So the first thing that you need to do is go and sit with somebody who can advise you in the Sharia space. As I said, it's not everybody's expertise. It's not everybody, because it's such a limited market. There are limited advisors also that is in that space, because Sharia in itself, it's a field, it's a market that you need to know your onions. because there are different types of investments. So what that person needs to do is first identify somebody that is an expert or can guide them in the field.
Okay.
That's number one. Number two is then to look at where that client is with their portfolio, and then to change those portfolios to Sharia compliant investments.
Okay.
If it is retirement planning, there are retirement products where the underlying investments can be Sharia compliant.
Okay.
Then if it's long term, the same goes there. And this, then that advisor will basically then build your portfolio and change your portfolio to be Sharia compliant. Meaning, like the point that you raised earlier on, that if so many of our clients in particular, it's actually heartwarming to see that many of the youngsters, when they walk into our offices, the first thing they tell me is that Mr. Jaffer, or many of them refer to me as uncle, Mr. Jaffer, I want my investments to be completely Sharia compliant, which is very heartwarming. So if you start with that premise, Allah will put the barakah in your portfolio, because many a times one of the things is that all investments, which is something that I believe that we're going to unpack later on, all investments, all markets goes through cycles.
Okay.
All right. So Sharia cycles could be long cycles. We're talking 3 to 5 year cycles.
Yeah.
So if your cycle is now on the up, you're going to have a number of years of a good cycle.
Okay.
Then when the cycle is down, you must understand you're going to go through a number of years of going down.
Okay.
So the advisor needs to understand that cycles and then guide the client through those cycles. And I even would like to unpack that as well. Yeah. Because that in itself is something that we need to understand, because as markets goes through the cycles, so too does funds goes through cycles, and so too does your circumstances change. And the advisor must then guide you and change and make the necessary changes to your portfolio accordingly.
Okay. So I want to touch on, because time is moving, and to our listeners, you can get involved in the show, of course. WhatsApp your questions into 0786101112. I want to just touch on takaful or versus insurance, because like you said, this is going to be a long conversation, and obviously it's not, even though the field of Sharia compliant financial is definitely small, the content is vast.
Very vast.
It's like an ocean. It's like an ocean. So I want to talk about takaful for a second. How does takaful function differently from standard risk cover or insurance?
Okay, so as you said, you're now talking something completely, it's something very specific.
Yes.
So takaful is a Sharia alternative to life cover.
Okay.
All right. Now let's unpack this for and I'm going to be very brief, as you said. The time is of the essence, and so firstly, if you look at conventional life cover, conventional life cover is basically where you pay your premiums over to the company.
Yes.
Whatever company it is, the insurance company, and they take that money and they invest it. And they invest it in anything.
Yes.
They can invest it into banks, into SAB, into all the non-permissible income, underlying investments. They can invest it in there. There can be interest income, bonds. There's obviously Sharia alternatives to that, but they will put it into any investment to get a return. That return then, if an event happens, they will take that money and pay it out to the family or to whoever.
Yeah.
So as you can see, the source from where that's going to come is not Sharia compliant.
It's a riba, yeah.
It's a riba. Now, that's the one step. The second step is that there are a view. I'm not pleased. I don't profess to be a scholar in the Sharia. I am not.
Yes.
But there is a school of thought that says that insurance is haram, full stop.
Yes.
No discussion further. Then there's the school of thought that says that if you can insure your debt, because that doesn't belong to you. Your debt belongs to somebody else, and you are allowed to take cover the debt, so that that person is not, with you dying, that at least that person is not going to be out of pocket.
Okay.
So that's the second thought. Then now that you get the alternative takaful, where there is now an alternative where you can cover your debt.
Yes.
So that market itself, so what happens is still under development. So what happens here is that they say that the money that you're going to give to the company, that money is going to be invested in a Sharia pool. So when the event happens, that money that is paid out to you or to your family, if it is a disability or if it's a death cover, is then paid from a halal pool.
Okay.
So that is where the technicalities in the I don't want to go into too much, because it's gonna
take up a lot of time,
and also it's can confuse people.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting to know, because a lot of people, ignorance is bliss. Ignorance is definitely bliss.
Yeah.
But in Islam, if you are educated, you can't claim ignorance anymore.
Yeah.
And that's why these shows exist, these segments exist, so that we can educate our people, because riba is supposed to be something that is supposed to be frowned upon like everything else that is haram. It's a very dangerous thing. And what it can do to your future. So we have to know alternatives as Muslims, especially because we're living in a country where everything runs on riba.
Correct.
But there are ways to not do that. So I want to talk also a little bit about, you obviously confirmed that you're not a scholar, and there are different schools of thought. There are hybrid models that are acceptable under different Islamic jurisprudences, correct?
Correct.
So how does one identify what is suitable for them? Do they have to speak to their local alim, to their imam, and then come to an institute like that? Or is that facilitated by, the professional?
Very interesting questions, Mikhail. So look, if you go to a properly qualified and a advisor that knows the difference between Sharia compliant and conventional funds, firstly, then they should know that.
Okay.
So that's fairly straightforward. The challenge comes in constructing the portfolio, because obviously you get I'm going to use a generic term.
Yes.
So you get aggressive investments, unit trust investments. You get Sharia compliant ones, and you get non-Sharia compliant ones. So the advisor needs to then tell the clients, listen, if we want to go Sharia compliant, these are the type of investment, the companies that we can invest with.
Yeah.
Locally, internationally, this is what we can do.
Okay.
So it is going to be the advisor needs to know those type of things, and there are advisors that can assist. But as I said to you earlier on, Mikhail, you find that the Sharia market is developing so fast because the institutions have realized how big this market is.
Yes.
That the in numbers we are very small, but when it comes to finances, we punch way above our numbers.
Okay.
Because you find a lot of Muslims that are highly qualified, that are in business.
Yes.
So we have a big impact, in fact, on the finances of the country. I'll give you one example.
Yes.
That just around when the market, the 2008 crash happened in South Africa, the financial crash happened.
Yes.
It was during the time of the late Minister Pravin Gordhan, where they actually put the first sukuk together, which is an alternative to a bond. Okay. And again, later on, I will explain what is a bond, what is a sukuk. But a bond is basically where you get fixed income. Yeah. It's a fixed interest type of. So they have come with a Sharia alternative that is called a sukuk. So it was them, and I'm not going to name the institution that did the sukuk with Pravin Gordhan and with the finance minister.
Yeah.
And when the crash happened,
it
didn't affect the sukuks as badly as what it affected the bonds.
Bonds.
So there in itself, you know, and in fact this afternoon I watched a brilliant clip from somebody who started a cola cool drink in the UK.
Yes.
And this woman, as a mother of 3 with no finances, started this business with nothing. And she built it into a multi-million industry and business.
I'm sure everyone knows what we're talking about.
And this is through you do your effort, and Allah puts the barakah in the balance. And we don't know where that barakah comes from. And Mikhail, I don't know how much time. I want to relate something else also.
We have 2 minutes left.
Okay, very quickly, I want to touch on something else. In fact, when I started in my business, I spoke to a scholar and I said to him, look, if somebody gives me 10,000 rands, and I'm going to give that 10,000 rands to the person in 5 or 10 years' time, because of inflation, that 10,000 rands is not going to be worth 10,000 rands in 5 or 10 years' time. Can't I charge the person an inflationary adjustment to give the person back the 10,000 equivalent that he's given me? And the person said, no. He said to me, and this is where the ordinary person, we don't see the other side of it. If I've given Mikhail 10,000 rands to help him in his business, or he's going through a tough time, I'm saving his home or his car or whatever it is. If I give Mikhail that 10,000 rands and he can only afford to give it back to me in 5 or 10 years' time, when he gives me that money back, or in the process, the amount of barakah that Allah puts in my business or in my income, in my rizq, none of us can see. We don't know where it comes. And this woman is a typical, and it's a clear sign and indication that if your intention is correct, Allah sees to the rest.
Shukran so much for being with us. I know time, I would have loved to continue this conversation, but inshallah we'll talk definitely more in the future. Shukran so much for coming in, Mohamed Jaffer. I really appreciate it.
Afwan, and Jazakallah to you and to Radio 786. And inshallah we look forward to more of these programs in the future.
Inshallah. Right there, the voice of Mohamed Jaffer from Mojaff Financial Services. He was here to unpack things around obviously financial, Sharia compliant financial assistance. We are going to take a break now for the news roundup with Khadija Davids, and after that is the Waqt of Isha. The Adhan will be at 19:18. After that we'll be back with our second segment of the evening. Stay tuned right here to Radio 76 100.4 FM.